In today's episode of the podcast, we're going to be thinking about the seasons of life and how that relates to Youier goal setting. I am your host, Elle Edwards, founder of the Faith and Business Playground. I am here with training, coaching, and this podcast to help you embrace your inner weirdo so you can make Jesus CEO of your life and business. And like I say, all this week we are exploring Youier goal setting, and it leads us into next week's extra special episodes. We're going to be calling it Reclaim Your Year Live. If you're not signed up, because it's not just the podcast, there's going to be emails to support it. And also we're going to be playing along in my Facebook group. So I would encourage you to sign up. faithandbusinessplayground.com/reclaim is where you can do that if you're not already. And if you are already signed up, now feels like a good chance to remind you, please do share it as well. I want to help as many people with that as possible. However, let's crack on with today's episode. Because I ended yesterday's episode by asking you, okay, if you were to guess what the Bible verse is for today, meaning tomorrow, meaning today, what would you guess? And my clue was seasons. If you said Ecclesiastes, give yourself a pat on the back or an extra cup of coffee because you are right. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Now, a number of times in the Bible, Jesus uses, and God, because this is the Old Testament, but Jesus uses examples in nature to remind us of how we could show up. So, for example, I read the verses from Matthew 6 on Tuesday, and we talked about, it said, seek first his kingdom. Now, in that passage, the bit I didn't read was Jesus gave the example of the birds of the air and the flowers, and talked about how the birds don't stress out too much about, where am I going to get my food from? And as far as we can tell, flowers don't need to strive and push really hard to make their petals look pretty or to get enough water from the ground. God provides what the things in nature need. And the same is true with the seasons as well. We see this in nature. We have spring, summer, autumn, winter. It depends. Obviously, some parts of the world have longer seasons because they're different, closer to the equator and further from the equator and all complicated geography stuff that I don't quite understand. But we see in nature this very clear reminder that life is seasonal. Now, how this relates to Youier goal setting is this. If you are somebody who has been reluctant to set goals because your life feels crazy, I want to encourage you that part of my process, and I told you at the start of the week, it's about Youier goal setting. It's about setting goals that reflect and honor and allow for who you are right now, where you are. And we're going to go into this in more detail next week. But we take SMART goals. I can't remember which day we're going to do it, so I can't reference it, but you'll know when you're there next week. We take SMART goals and we become smartest. And the S in the est part at the end of smartest stands for seasonal. Now, let me give you a quick concrete example for what I mean. Right now, my children are all in full-time school. They're 12, 14, and 16. And so, generally speaking, between the hours of about 8:30 and 3:00, the day is my own. At the time of recording this, right now, that's actually all been turned upside down. My eldest daughter is doing her GCSEs, and I've actually had to put into my calendar, when do I have to pick her up? Because it changes from day to day, and some days she's here and some days she's not. I feel like between now and September, when they all go back to school, everything is upside down. But it did remind me actually of how important this seasonal aspect is, because I've gotten very used to the day being my own. I usually drop them off at school, and I usually take the dogs out for a walk, and I come back to my desk and go from there. And I'm having to shift the way I work a little bit to allow for the fact that things are different for a time. But contrast that with 10 years ago, when my children were 2, 4, and 6, it was a very different season of life. And I've not been shy about the fact ever. I've been quite honest that I didn't make a penny in my business until all 3 of my children started full-time school. So if you're listening to this and you're a parent and you find it difficult juggling, and maybe you've got children, if you've got children at home still and you're somehow managing to run a business during nap time or after they've gone to bed, know that you have my utmost admiration and respect, because I remember very clearly it is not easy. And you are doing brilliantly. And so just what I want to encourage you really from today's episode, and this is going to be a shorter than usual episode, it'll be nearer 5 minutes than 10. But what I want to just encourage you is that it is entirely possible to create goals that you actually want to get done that honor where you are right now. So the goals you're setting today will be different to the goals you were setting 5 or 10 years ago, and will be different to where you will be 5 or 10 years from now. So 10 years from now, my children will be 22, 24, 26. Goodness me, that's a frightening thought, particularly when I remember how fast the last decade has gone. But it's a different season of life again. And so what we're going to make sure we do next week, and like I say, I've used that phrase nitty gritty. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of it next week of how to do this. But we are going to be thinking about the season and setting goals, not for who you want to be or how you wish things were, but how things are right now. You know, what are the demands being made of you? Because if you're anything like most people, it's not like you can exist and you can build a business in a bubble and you can get these goals done in a bubble. We're talking about real life goal setting. And that, I guess, is my encouragement for you. So if you're somebody who has been reluctant because you don't see how it fits with your life, I've got you. Okay. And if you're not signed up, faithandbusinessplayground.com/reclaim, because we can do this in a way that will work wherever you are, regardless of what season of life you are in. Now, tomorrow's episode is the very last one in this week-long series. This is actually the most important one from my perspective, because I'm going to be sharing with you the real reason why setting goals are important. And I get to talk about one of my favorite ever pet topics, which, if you can guess what that is, if you're a long-time listener, you will probably know. But that is tomorrow. So tune in for that one. In the meantime, thank you for listening. It's been my pleasure and delight to share this with you. I look forward to catching up with you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.